My name is Lloyd John Meyer. I was born in a small town in southern Idaho, north of Idaho Falls. It's Rigby, Idaho. I was born there in the 27th of August, 1927. My mother, it was a very unusual birth to her because she wasn't expecting twins. So after he was born, they placed him on an oven door, and then shortly after, I was born. So they put us on this open door in a wood stove and oven so that it would keep us warm. They wrapped us in a blanket. She called a veterinarian to sign the birth certificate, and when he came, he noticed that we were well done on the oven door, so he left. Okay, my father was born in Biel, Switzerland, and he was born in 1895 in Biel, Switzerland. He and his family came over here and immigrated to the United States because of a problem that they had after the birth of their last child. Dad lived in Providence while he was growing up, and he went to called the BYU Academy. He was working in several different jobs when he was about 17 or 18. And there was a man in Providence that was a beekeeper. His name was Miller. And he was the founder of the Miller Honey Company that is in Salt Lake City at this time and in California. So he and his brother went down to Colton, California to help this Mr. Miller out in the bees, and they became very interested in the bee business. So they worked there a couple of years, and then they decided to buy their own bees and pull away from the Millers. So they went up to Rigby, Idaho, and set up a bee business, and the two of them. And they called it the Meyer Brothers Honey Company. And they were there a few years, and I was about 6 years old when they decided to divide the company up, and so they came down to Smithfield and built a branch of the company. And this is where we more or less grew up. In the wintertime, we would go to California every winter and run the bees and rent a house. And whenever he needed some help, he would have us boys go down there and help him out in the wintertime. So we kind of missed school back and forth, but it was a good experience. So I graduated from high school in 1945. Second World War was still on. There was a program on at Catalina Island in California, and it was a recruiting program for the Merchant Marines, or the Maritime Service. And it sounded very exciting. So my brother and I, we were always together. We joined the Merchant Marines when we were 17, just before our 18th birthday. We trained there for 6 months on Catalina Island. And there they taught us how to manage lifeboats, steering, and all of the things associated with sailing. And then after being there for that length of time, the war ended, and we stayed on and trained and got our papers so that we could sail on different vessels and with our credentials for the maritime service. We had turned 18 and the draft board decided that we could no longer be exempt from the service. We joined the Army, and so we went around the Aleutian Islands and the chain, and then came back down south, and we came into Yokohama Bay, and from there we were separated into different Army camps. So I ended up in a Army camp about 40 miles northwest of Tokyo, and I spent 13 months in that camp. I was in the headquarters battery, and my job was to transport the officers around the area and into Tokyo, and so I drove a general and also a colonel. We came back from Japan, and they took us up to Seattle, where we were discharged in Camp Stoneman. I was enrolled at USU when we came back. I was a junior in college, and decided to go on a mission. So I was called to go to the Swiss-Austrian mission in 1951. I served in the same city as my father was born, in Biel. My brother was with me most of the time, and during the latter part of the mission, they were closing cities up and they weren't getting any replacements for missionaries, so they put the two of us together, and we were missionary companions, and we worked hard, and it was a good time. See, then I came back from Switzerland and enrolled in school again. So my sister was living with Eloise, my future wife, in Salt Lake. So my sister-in-law, they were living together, and she said, well, I have a brother that just came back from a mission, and I'd like you to meet him. So she arranged for me to pick her up in Salt Lake and take her home. She lived in Lewiston, and so I went down and picked her up, and we got along pretty well. The first date, she kissed me. I think that's the way it was. Well, we got along real well, and she was the secretary of the junior class, and she was involved with that. She was involved with sororities. They were having a Founders Day banquet at the fraternity house, and they had elected her the queen of the fraternity. And one of the activities that they did right at first was they recruit all of these guys to join the fraternity, and then they would walk down the old main hill in front of on the USU campus, and her job was to welcome these guys coming down the hill. And I didn't like that. So she would come down there, and they'd all give her a big kiss. And I really didn't like that either. So that evening before she left, I went down, or I secured a ring for her. I gave her the ring, or I showed her the ring, and she says, "You mean we're going to do this tonight?" She says, "I got to go up to the fraternity and meet with all of the young fraternity people." And I says, "Well, it says you either do it tonight or never." And, you know, I don't know whether she thought of it for a while, but she says, "Well, okay." That was the end of that. So she didn't come back to school. She gave up that secretarial job and the Queen and all that for me, and I thought, oh, you know, there must be something wrong with her. So we were married in the Logan Temple, and from there it was springtime. It was in November, and I stayed in school until the spring, and then we moved to California, and I started working in the bees in California. When we finished there, went up to Montana, and we bought a bee business in Billings, outside of Billings, and I took her up there, and we were in Billings, or in Hardin, for about 10 years or more together, and then we had, every time we'd go up, we'd have a baby. And I remember when we came back one year, why this counselor that was in the bishopric, or in the branch, he says, "Well, it looks like the Meyers are back there just like the geese. They go down south in the winter, then they come back and have their little birds." She enjoyed music. She taught the piano when our kids were growing up. And after they were all in school, she started working for the church education system. After the kids left home, and she had about 17 years, I think, in the system. We decided to go on a mission, and we're called to go to the Des Moines, Iowa mission, proselyting mission. So we spent a year and a half in Iowa. You know, we came home, I think it was in 1999. And then we were here for probably 4 or 5 years, and then decided to go on another mission. And this time we were called to serve in the Munich, Austria mission. We like to travel with the family. We spent a lot of time in Bear Lake in the summertime. She would go to the musicals here in Logan. And I don't know, the church seemed to be our outlet for what we love to do. And she's had 2 different operations, one on each knee, and replaced her knees, and that kind of confined her for a little while. And then she got through them, and everything worked out fine. So she, after the last one, why she started having a few blood clots from the operation, and put her in the hospital. And then she had a fibrillating heart condition. And one night she always had to wear one of these CPAPs that they put on over their nose to breathe at night. And I'd always turn over and ask her if she had that on. And she would have it on, and she'd say, "Well, sure I have." And it was just kind of a joke. And one night she woke up and her CPAP was moved over a little bit, and she wasn't breathing properly, and so I straightened it up for her, and then during the night I came out here and waited till she settled down, and then she says "Lloyd, come on in here, I'm having problems." And I went in there and she'd had a stroke. And we thought she was doing pretty well for about 2 or 3 weeks. But she'd get a little better, and then she'd have another little slight stroke, and then they'd have to start the rehab again. And one morning she had another massive stroke, and then that, after about 2 or 3 days, well, then that was about it. She couldn't come out of it, so she died March the 1st in 2012. But we had a good marriage, and we thought we had done everything that we could do in a marriage. We had a nice family and taught them the gospel. We went on missions and enjoyed the whole gamut of everything in life. So it was a very good marriage. It's getting a little better, but you're always alone. And if I didn't have the family and the support that they've given me, well, it'd be a lonely life. But my children have been very supportive. So it's getting better, but you have to feel that this is the plan of life, and these things will happen to you sometime. It'll happen to me, and I don't know how or how long I'll be here, and I feel I've been blessed with good health, and my mind is somewhat clear. So I've been really blessed, and the transition from living with a person for 57 years to living alone is quite a transition to make, but I know that we believe that we'll be together again, and you have to have patience and understand that this is just momentarily, and it'll work out. Remember, when we took her to Salt Lake, the university there, she was they put her on a helicopter, and she says, "Where am I going? What am I doing here?" He says, "Well, we're taking you for a ride down to the university hospital." And they told her why, and she says, "Well, Lloyd won't like this." And that was really her comment. So we got along well. It takes a lot to raise 8 children, but we were blessed with the things we needed.
I've seen the end, I've lost the war, and one day you'll join me here just like the rest. I hear the engine